Like I said, we're starting with this story right here. Update: 6 killed and the shooter is dead in a mass shooting at a Walmart in Chesapeake, Virginia. So let's talk about some of the details here. Mass shooting at a Walmart in Chesapeake, Virginia has caused multiple fatalities and injuries. The shooter committed suicide. Police have responded and reported of a reported active shooter at a Walmart off of Battlefield Boulevard. The Chesapeake PD says there were multiple fatalities and injuries, and police are going through the building. But it turns out that we have all the reports here. As this story was breaking, multiple reports were coming out here. One Walmart employee standing outside the store after the horrific attack revealed on social media that it was the manager, and one of the managers, referring to the gunman, the shanked staff member, added he blew his brains out and everything. He killed the girl in there and everything. He came in and started spraying. Sorry for the victims. I just left the break room. The manager come in there and started capping people up in there. Sorry for the bad grammar. Started shooting. Sadly, we lost a few of our associates. It was a traumatic experience, he later revealed to dailymail.com. So this is the story as it was breaking, and that's what we're seeing now. The gunman has been identified, Andre Bing. He was identified as the Chesapeake Walmart shooter who killed 6. There is a bit of video about him and what he was doing. There was a Facebook Live video where you can see him here being featured in it. This is him, and you can see him there. But it goes on to say the gunman who opened fire at the Virginia Walmart has been identified as Andre Bing, a manager at the store who killed 6 coworkers before taking his own life. There was a Facebook Live video where he was shown in it. His name was Andre. The young man is seen joking with workers before he walks away. When the woman points her camera at him, it was unclear when the footage was shot. Chesapeake Police Chief Mark Selesky said the gunman killed 6 coworkers before killing himself with a handgun. The police department said 3 individuals, including the shooter, were found deceased in the break room of the store, while one dead victim was located toward the front of the store. They added that 3 other victims were transported to local hospitals and for further treatment, but succumbed to their injuries. It's a terrible story all the way around. Thoughts and prayers with the family and the victims. This all is breaking as of last night is when this story took place. There's no clear motive according to the police. They say that there is no indication the gunman was known to law enforcement before the shooting, which we know that'll probably change. And he also could not confirm that all the victims were Walmart employees. Parent store employee described him as the manager, and we went through those quotes recently. So here's his house, and his home was raided very recently, just after the raid, or just after the shooting took place. They raided his home. This shooting took place last night, I should say. And so this all brings me back to some interesting things here. And before we get into it, we're going to talk about another mass shooting that just took place not too long ago, where a gunman was supposedly went into this Club Q and shot a bunch of people and killed some. And his name was, I can't remember the guy's name. I'll pull it up here in a second and we'll get through it. But this is the first reaction we get from the political class to this Walmart shooting, because they had the same reaction to the Club Q shooting that we're going to cover here in a second. But this is their reaction. Biden's already pushing for greater action on gun control after Walmart employee allegedly killed 6 with a pistol. They said earlier this year, President Biden signed the most significant gun safety law in nearly 3 decades, in addition to taking other historic actions. But we must do more. We need to enact an assault weapons ban to get weapons of war off of American streets. House Democrats acted, and the Senate should follow. So, you know, you listen to these words and you understand what they want to do. They want to disarm the populace. If you ever read that book that was written by William Cooper called Behold a Pale Horse, it talks about how the CIA is essentially creating these sort of events, these mass shooting events, to create the public impetus, the predication to ban guns and take guns away from innocent civilians, to take away your God-given right to protect yourself and defend yourself. This is what they want to do, and this is a part of the strategy. So before we get into some of the older Q posts that tell us what to look for, what kind of signs and signals to understand, which are more apparent in this Club Q shooting with the person who was involved with that massacre, which we'll talk about here. Here he is, real quick. Accused Colorado gay bar shooter now has come out in court as a non-binary who uses they/them pronouns, according to his attorney. Anderson Lee Aldrich, that's his name, is non-binary, uses they/them pronouns, and is addressed by MX, according to a Tuesday night court filing by his attorney. The mass shooting at Club Q. You remember that? We talked about that briefly in another episode, where it's interesting how this psychopath goes to Club Q and starts murdering people, right as Q starts posting again. Anyway, the mass shooting at Club Q killed 5 and injured 17. Oh, that's interesting. 17 people were injured at Club Q. Aldrich's been charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and bias-motivated crime. So, first off, I want to point out that this is a few different, it's a conflagration of things, really. First, the way the media has portrayed this Club Q shooter immediately in the aftermath was that he was a deranged, right-wing, QAnon supporting, religious right bigot. That's what they said about him. And we're going to watch clips of the fake news telling us how people like Tucker Carlson were immediately responsible for the actions of this deranged gunman who shot all these people at this Club Q. But the reason we're going to focus a little bit more on the Club Q shooting and a little less on the Walmart one is 2 reasons. One, we don't have a lot of details on this Walmart shooting yet. All of it's just breaking. The news is just coming out. We've just now identified the suspect who is the manager, supposedly, of that store, who shot 6 people and then committed suicide. But I find the timing interesting when you think about it in its entirety. First of all, this Club Q thing could not be going worse as far as the narrative painting by the fake news media has gone. First, they said he was a far-right extremist. They said that he was, being radicalized by Tucker Carlson. And then it turns out, when you do a little research on this guy who we have more information on, it becomes very disturbing. And why do they want us distracted? I don't know. I mean, maybe because this stuff is what we were talking about not too long ago, maybe a couple days ago, and we're still talking about it certain places. Hunter Biden owned financial stake in digital banking platform for undocumented migrants, introduced founder to Joe Biden, while company received Mexican government's endorsement. So you can read more about this story. I'll leave a link to it. It is from this War Room with Steve Bannon, where they have more documents showing Hunter Biden being involved in this. ePlata, a digital banking platform, partnered with the Mexican government to enable migrants to send and receive remittances, has deep financial and personal ties to Hunter Biden. The fintech startup described itself as multi-balance, multi-currency, digital wallet, and payment ecosystem. So it was founded by one of Hunter Biden's longtime business partners, Jeff Cooper. Documents unearthed from Hunter Biden's hard drive also revealed the president's son held a 8.25% stake in ePlata through his company as Wasco LLC, though it's unclear if he still remains in that position. So the more we expose these people and their corruption, the more the news just changes all of a sudden because of these mass shootings that pop up out of nowhere. And maybe it's my conspiratorial mind that is, just keeping me from seeing the fact that this is all just a big coincidence and I'm reading more into it than there is. I'll leave room for that to be a possibility. But maybe if I leave room for that to be a possibility, for the way I look at it, maybe the people out there watching who are skeptical would say maybe there's room for possibility that this is all connected and it is all part of the attempt to shut up and silence any dissent, to shift the narrative away from their crimes, their corruption. Why would they be, working with, these digital banking platforms that were facilitating human migrant smuggling across the border and sending remittances, sending money outside the country? Could that be a way to funnel money, illegally from outside the country into certain bank accounts that may be under the control of the Biden family and other corrupt deep state power brokers in Washington, D.C.? I mean, I don't know. You ask the question and then you get, censored and deplatformed. So, and they think this is all like in the realm of impossibility, but it's not. The Biden family treats the government like their royalty, like they're kings and queens, and they can live this lush, posh life. At least when Trump was doing it, he paid for his own stuff. He donated his paycheck every quarter when he received it. He never took from the government. He paid his own way. Joe Biden, on the other hand, has luxurious private family weddings at the White House where they ban the press, except they allow Vogue to come in. You know, the same Vogue that did a photo shoot with Zelensky and his wife in a war zone in Ukraine, to come and do a photo shoot at their wedding, right? Because that's not, you know, a complete and total, like, what are these people doing? Look at them. Ask yourself, is this the country you want to live in, where these corrupt, sick, degenerate people are like having their weddings at the White House as if they're kings and queens, and we're the serf peasants who can't even see what's happening there? How many taxpayer dollars were spent on that? And they'll go, oh, well, we paid for it. Yeah, no, I guarantee you our money, whether our money was directly coming from taxpayers or it was indirectly laundered through Ukraine and FTX crypto back to the Biden campaign, which was then laundered into paying for the wedding, either way, we're paying for it with our money. Trust you, me. Paying Joe Biden $400,000 a year to be the president, you know, or $400,000. Is it a year or is it every quarter? I don't know what it is. I think it's like every quarter he gets a chunk of that, $100,000 a quarter. Either way, it's insanity. And on top of it all, they continue to persecute Trump. Attorney for Trump is arguing that there should be a dismissal of the New York Attorney General lawsuit, telling judge, you have a clear bias against my client, but hey, that's okay, because we can have a completely inverted two-tier justice system where Trump is unfairly treated and he is persecuted beyond belief every single time in every court case. How many cases have they lost at this point? And at what point do you realize that they're using lawfare against him? It's not a coincidence that they keep launching frivolous lawsuits and cases against Trump time and time again, trying to get him for crimes he never committed, trying to just throw as much at the wall until they see something that sticks. I mean, if this same precedent were put against any other politician, I mean, Joe Biden, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, they'd be in jail 100 times over by now because they actually committed crimes, whereas Trump didn't, and that's where we're at. So welcome to this world, as Klaus Schwab reminds us that communist China is a role model for many countries in creating the new world of tomorrow. Huh, that's interesting. So as he's saying this, you can't make it up, protesters outside Apple factory in China are beaten and detained. Yeah, here's a little glimpse of that. Now, this is them trying to escape the factory, but here's the video of them being beaten and detained. I mean, trying to escape the factory, where they're being held hostage, prisoner, to create cheap, crappy iPhones for everyone. Yeah, you get beaten. That's the role model that Klaus Schwab wants. Communist China. Yep. And so, you know why they love, and I'll let you guys watch these links, I'll leave them below, but you know why they love the communist Chinese, these authoritarian globalist cartels? Because in communist China, there's Guangzhou, I think. I'm pronouncing it terribly, but it's like, favor. You carry favor. What does carrying favor mean? Carrying favor is, buying your way, bribing the right people, is knowing the right officials to give the right bribes to get away with whatever you want. Essentially, in China, the system is so corrupt that you can get away with most crimes as long as you have good connections inside the Communist Party and you know who to give the bribe to. As long as you know those things and have those things, you can get away with murder, and literally get away with murder and worse. So that's what they do in China. That's why the globalists love it so much. It's not because as much that they have the social credit score and the authoritarianism, all that. Yeah, that's fine. But the real reason they love China is because bribery and corruption is the law of the land. It is not an exception to the rule. It is the rule. So that is what we're seeing, and it's just interesting to note that. Now, I want to grace this greater segment, and you guys know we're in Mark chapter 10. We're going through all the four major Gospels. We started in Matthew. We're in Mark. We're in chapter 10, and we're finishing chapter 10 today, starting at verse 46, reading all the way to the end. And this is Jesus performing a miracle. but it's not just any miracle. It's a powerful one that gives such a good concept for what we are like before we find Jesus and after we find Jesus. And tell me if you can spot what the similarities that what I'm going to be saying here. Is Jesus healing a blind man for our God's Grace is Greater segment. We're in Mark chapter 10, finishing chapter 10 today, and we're reading from verse 46. Let's read it here. It says, they came to Jericho, and as he was leaving Jericho with his disciples and a large crowd, Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the road. When he heard that it was Jesus the Nazarene, he began to cry out, "Son of David, Jesus, have mercy on me." Many people told him to keep quiet, but he was crying out all the more, "Have mercy on me, Son of David." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called the blind man and said to him, "Have courage, get up, he's calling for you." He threw off his coat, jumped up, and came to Jesus. Then Jesus answered him, "What do you want me to do for you?" Rabboni, he says, the blind man told him, "I want to see." "Go your way," Jesus told him. "Your faith has healed you." Immediately he could see and began to follow him on the road. Wow. Now, I love that story and this miracle because it's a little bit of, an allegory for us, right? Us all as followers of Jesus. What do we do from the first time that we find out about Jesus till when we're saved, till after we're saved, right? We do exactly what this blind beggar did. What does he do? He's sitting on the road, and Jesus is leaving the area of Jericho. And when he hears that it's Jesus, the Nazarene, walking by him, he knows it's the Son of God. He either realizes in that moment, or he knew, and he was just had to take opportunity when it presented itself to call out. And what does he call out for? He doesn't call out for, his to be healed immediately. He doesn't ask for any of that. The first thing he says is, "Son of David, Jesus, have mercy on me." Now the crowd told him to be quiet, but he yelled it even louder and saying, "Have mercy on me, Son of David." Jesus, stopping, hearing that, says, "Bring him over," right? So they got him up and they brought him over, and he took off with the most excitement you can imagine, runs to Jesus. And Jesus asks him what he wants, and it's then that he asks him, he wants to see. Now, all Jesus does after that is says, "Go your way, your faith has healed you." And he was healed, and he began to follow Jesus on that road. Now, what is that an allegory for? Is that not an allegory for us in our lives? And it could be an allegory for you if you've yet to turn your life over to God. Think about it. Aren't we all blind? You know the verses to that song, that amazing song, Amazing Grace? "I once was blind, but now I see." Well, we were all blind before we knew about Jesus, before we found out, and sometimes our spiritual blindness can persist into our later adult life because we're unable to see the greatness that is in God through his Son, Jesus. But what should we do? Well, we should be like the blind beggar, right? We should, Bartimaeus, be like Bartimaeus. We should call out to God, "Have mercy on us." And that's how a lot of us, including me, I guess that's how we all have to start in our faith, in our path toward finding the eternal salvation through faith in Jesus Christ. We beg for Jesus and God to have mercy on us, because we have to admit what? We have to admit that we are all sinners, that we've all made mistakes, that we've all fallen, and that we are all imperfect, and that we're all separated from God because of the sinful life that we have lived by existing in this fallen world. Nobody can get around that. It's just a matter of fact. What do we do, though? We call on God. Once we realize what Jesus can offer and we understand who he is, we beg for his mercy, and then what does he do? Jesus does exactly for us what he did for Bartimaeus. He brings us over, and he asks us, what do we want? We could have anything in the world, and what we want most is to see him more clearly, just like Bartimaeus, right? Or at least that's what I hope we all want, or what we should want, I would imagine. And Jesus will do that. Jesus will heal us. He will save us. He saved me. I don't know how he's going to save you. I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm not a prosperity preacher. I'm not telling you, hey, give me money and God's going to heal you and he's going to give you all your dreams. You have a Lamborghini and you're going to be saved. I don't know. I can't do that. That's not for me to do. It's for you, just like me, to find that relationship in God through prayer, through meditation, through giving your life to him, through stopping your continuous running away from God and turning and doing an about face and going back toward God. He's waiting. He wants you to come. He's right there with you. Jesus told us in Matthew 28, I will be with you until the end of age. He's never stopped being with you. You have to turn around and go back to him. Just like Bartimaeus ran after Jesus when he realized that Jesus was calling on him, Jesus is calling on us all to run back to him so that he can heal us, that he can give us eternal salvation, that he can save us, because that's what he does through the Father. He can do all things. And that's what we have to remind ourselves every single day, is to be more like Bartimaeus, to go toward Jesus and have faith that he can heal us. Jesus tells us our faith can move a mountain. We can say to that mountain, be moved. If we have faith and God wills it, it can be done. The impossible can be done. So we must have faith and we must call on the name of Jesus and he will save us. So I will tell you guys this. I am so grateful and thankful. I hope you guys have a beautiful and wonderful, happy Thanksgiving. Remember, what are we doing Thanksgiving for? In my opinion, in my family, and what we do, it's to give thanks to God. We're sharing a beautiful meal and time with one another to give thanks to God, to thank him for all our blessings. So don't forget to thank God for all your blessings. And if you are wondering, God's waiting for you. If you haven't turned your life over to him yet and you're still living in that little bit of a sinful way and you're still just not sure, he's calling you right now. Will you talk to him? Will you answer? Will you say that prayer that opens up that line of communication so God can do great things in your life? He can heal you. He can restore you. He can bring you out of your darkest, deepest, most troubling time and bring you into a place of light and goodness and hope and promise. Let him do it. Let him do it. Let him in. He's waiting. So I'm just going to leave it there. We're going to say a prayer and then we'll wrap it up.